to take the viewer.
Okay. I think I'm live. Thanks, Alexis. Okay. Fingers and toes are crossed. I'm going to hang out here for a minute because we've got to get the link to you in order for you to find me here. So I'm gonna continue chatting, and because you guys will have this as a recording. So basically a recap of what we were talking about before is it's really important now to go through this phase of making a good home for the parts of yourself from the previous phases of alchemy that you cleansed and purified, and now the work is to put those pieces back together. And it's not easy to do that work because you wouldn't have alchemized them. You wouldn't have needed to alchemize those pieces if there wasn't something about them that was gritty, you know what I mean? Or in some way sort of an area of challenge or growth for you. So I think it's actually a really, for me, it's an exciting process to go back through and look at all the bits and pieces and say, what's valuable here? And if on the face of it I don't see it as valuable, is there a way for me to reframe my perspective on those things? So I hope that's helpful for you. If you, I want to invite you this month, while I'm waiting for you guys to come online, I want to invite you this month in your questions in the coaching session that I do. I want to invite you to maybe think about questions that still remain for you from the previous phases of alchemy. So if you have a desire this month to go back to a question from January or from March or from May, I'm completely open to that because this is the midway point of the year, right? We're now just over halfway through the entire alchemical process. You know what I mean? So this is going to be the time when you may want to revisit some of your old worksheets, to come back to some old questions. Maybe like some of you were talking about, you might be re-alchemizing, going back through and running some different, current challenges through the alchemical process. And I'm here to support you, whether you're just starting now or whether you're going back and kind of revisiting some of the earlier phases. So I want to put that offer out there to you for your questions for July. And then we're just going to hang tight while I wait for you to come online. Thank you for being patient with our technologies. I do think there's an irony in the fact that I was talking about the retrogrades and I mentioned Mercury retrograde, and even though Mercury is not retrograde right now, it went direct on June 22nd. Maybe we accidentally invited a little retrograde Mercury activity into our class today. Okay. Waiting for you. Okay, good. Alexa sees me. Yay! That means you'll be able to see me too in just a second. Technological challenges, man. And this is seems to be like a YouTube back end thing. So I get my technology sorted out, and then I got YouTube to contend with. I am dancing by myself today. Probably looks really weird. Hey Jessica, hey Christine, hey Yvonne, oh hey. Save me, I was here dancing all by myself. I was looking real weird here. Yeah, Mercury retrograde got all offended. It's like, you're gonna talk about me? What? I'll tell you something about Mercury retrograde. Anyway, we're back. We're working now. That was a YouTube situation. I don't know what happened there. But these are all invitations to deepen our practice, darling. My teacher always says that, and it drives me up the wall. One of my teachers has a 0 complaint policy. That drives me nuts. Because, I mean, I'm not a complainer person, but sometimes I like to get stuff off my chest. And my one teacher is a hard ass. She's just like, nope, nope, it's an invitation. It's an invitation. Deepen your practice. Deepen your practice. Where's your practice not deep enough? So whenever I say, oh, you know, this or that, or complain about the pandemic or anything, she's just like, nope, this is where we are. Deepen your practice. So I don't like that, which is why I don't teach it. It drives me crazy. I don't think she's wrong, but I still think if you want to complain about something, you should speak your truth and use your throat chakra. But there is something in me that when things like this happen, I can hear her going, nope, deepen your practice. It's an opportunity. Deepen the practice. So deepen your practice. How are you now? Okay, so coming back to our worksheets. There's two things I want to do with you tonight. We still have plenty of time to do both. And then, like I said, I'll be with you from 6 to 7 for our live readings. I know, we got 50 of you here, so yay. You danced with me? It's getting weird today. What are we going to do? Yeah, you know what? Sometimes we need to vent. Sometimes you got to vent. Do you vent? Sometimes I like to vent. Anyway, here we are. It's all divine. Deepen your practice, darling. No complaints. Okay. Tonight I want to go through the worksheets with you. I want to talk about retrogrades, and I want to get us kind of, you know, aligned in how we're thinking about what this phase of planetary movement really represents. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to do, if you're down for it, is I know we do Shamanic Journey week 3. This is not a shamanic journey. I want to do a little brief guided meditation tonight because I want you to make a little space of pleasure in your mind. I really do. And part of it is, you know, I taught the manifestation class. If you didn't see it, you have access to it for free if you were in Soul Shift in June. So you can go back and watch it anytime. But one of the things I tried to teach you in that class is that desire is really important. And we are moving now into more of a lower chakra energy with our alchemical work. And part of the work of conjunction is figuring out what you love, what you enjoy, what feels good, what resonates, what's in alignment for you. And we really haven't asked those questions yet this year. Yay, we're back, I know. So, and you guys can hear me? I don't know. Leptaria says she's having trouble hearing. Let me know. So questions about pleasure, questions about enjoyment, questions about passion are relevant this month as we come back together and put all the pieces back together. So I would like to do a brief guided meditation with you today to create this place of pleasure, this pleasure palace in your mind, to give you a place to go to this month when you experience stress, when you experience challenge, when you experience struggle, just to give you a tool in your toolbox. So, and it'll be brief, okay, good, but just a little space for you to go to. And I did this exercise last week preparing for today, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I was like, will I enjoy it? Let me see if I enjoy doing it, and then if I'll enjoy it, maybe they'll enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. So I want to do that with you, and this can become a really powerful tool because once you create this little space, you can instantly go there. And if you want, you can actually program, like if you have a piece of quartz with you, you can actually, in this little meditation, you can program a piece of quartz, because quartz is programmable, to hold the frequency of this space that you create. So that every time you then go and collect this piece of quartz, it will hold that frequency. So that's kind of fun too. So I wanted to do that tonight and then see if you have any questions. Oh, you clicked mute. I'm not laughing at you, but it's like, I'm glad that that's all it is. Yeah. I see you, Randy. Do you see me yet, darling? Welcome in. Thanks for your patience, guys. Okay, so let's start with page 1 of our worksheet. Let's start. I don't think I officially rang my bell. So class has officially begun. I always like to ring my bell at the beginning and end of class. I feel like it puts a pin in it. You know? Hey, Scarlett. Scarlett says she's lost Alexa, so if you can check in and see. Yeah, that's a good point. So let me give you like a 2-minute recap of what I talked about before this live started, because Colin's got a good point. Some of you, did anybody miss the first part? Some of you may not have missed it, but let me give you the quick recap, okay? Because there was kind of an introduction, and I don't want to restate the whole thing, because the whole thing will be in the recording. But just so that you can kind of track where I'm at right now, I think she was asking me to do a recap of the first part, but let me make sure I understood that correctly. What I was basically saying is conjunction, this new phase that we're moving into in alchemy, requires the reintegration of pieces of you that you may have wanted to discard during the earlier phases of alchemy, which really align to what we call shadow work. And for some of you, there may be nothing that you didn't want to reintegrate. You didn't turn up anything that was unpleasant or difficult or challenging to explore. But for me and for a lot of people, we had some moments where we're like, this thing or that thing, I don't want to put that back together. I don't want to put that into my cauldron. I'd rather discard that. But the process, the phase of conjunction, which is what we're doing this month in alchemy, is really about maybe giving those things one more glance. Because hidden in the tough parts of you, and hidden in the experiences that maybe you've wanted to discard or to ignore, or to repress, or maybe you've looked at them and you're like, I really don't need this anymore. Hidden in some of that, what you might consider excess or waste or not useful energy, is often still a kernel of something that's valuable. And making a home for that, or at least exploring the process of whether you can make a home for that, can be a really powerful instrument for learning, in my experience. It's like trying to find a home for something. So anyway, that was if you did miss the first part, not the last minutes while we came back online, but if you did miss the first part, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's go to the worksheets. So we're going to start on page 1, and we're going to go through in order. I'm not going to read to you. These are your worksheets. You can read them. But I am going to give you some highlights of things that I think are really important and I want to draw your attention to. So instead of conjunction, like I said in the worksheets, I really think of this phase as the reintegration. It's the, like Lauren says, turning the mess into a message. What is there here that's useful? And I would argue, and this is the case I made earlier in our time together today, I believe that nature is very intentional. And I believe that life is very intentional. And even the hardest parts of my life, and you wouldn't have convinced me of this when I was in the middle of it, but even the hardest parts of my life have had great medicine in them, that have formed me really into the person I am today. So for me, this is about, finding a new home for parts of you that maybe you would have rejected before. And I drew a parallel between how you might treat a defenseless child. You wouldn't tell them you can't welcome them home because there's something wrong with them. And yet we do that to ourselves all the time. Yeah. Now, well, that's neat. Rachel Murphy says she's doing an unsent letter project. Wouldn't that be an interesting maybe assignment for you guys, is to write a letter to those parts of yourself? Wouldn't that be interesting? What would you say to the parts of yourself that you find difficult to welcome home? And could you give those parts of you a voice to write back to you and say something to you? That would be for me, that would be a very emotional exercise. And I might do it just because even thinking about it has got me reflecting on maybe that would be useful. So thank you for mentioning that. So on page 2, some scholars of alchemy and theorists refer to the products of this stage as the child of conjunction. Isn't that interesting? A product of the conception of the reunion of the masculine and the feminine within us, and that part of you will now grow and change and emerge as a completely new creation. I absolutely believe, right? I absolutely believe that we have the capacity to be completely reborn. Every 7 years, your cells, transform in your body, right? My mom is an esthetician, and she's always told me my whole life about how every 7 years your hair changes. It changes texture, everything about you changes because your cells change. And so in so many ways we are reborn, right? And life happens in cycles. And so you aren't the same person that you were, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, almost even on a cellular level. And so inviting this idea that maybe as we put ourselves back together, right, that we could actually be forming a new creation, and that new part of you can have a new life. Isn't that interesting? I believe in that. I believe that we are much more complex than we give ourselves credit for, and that when you really indulge these ideas of total transformation from the inside out, that you can even see a transformation physically, right? And the reverse is also true. I know people who, have not done a lot of really intense spiritual work, and they look the same. I mean, when I've known them as small children, when I've known them, in their 20s, now I know them at middle age, in their 50s, there isn't that much change. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing or bad thing, or I'm not putting a value on it, but I think it's really interesting because most of the people I know who've done some pretty crazy spiritual work, when you look back at older pictures of them, it's like a whole different, it's like there's somebody else, looking through the eyes. It's a very interesting thing. You want a new astrological chart? That I don't think we can do. Wouldn't that be nice if everything about us changed every 7 years? Or maybe not. So this phase of alchemy is about knowing your desire. That the know thyself this month, because each month in alchemy there's a know thyself by, right? This month is knowing yourself through your desire and tapping into that kundalini energy that this phase of alchemy really stimulates, right? So this phase of alchemy is inviting you to look at what do you need, what do you desire? And one of the things I've noticed in the last 2 years, and if I ever sit down and really write about the pandemic experience, this would be part of what I would write about. Because this is the first time in my life I've seen the collective go through and process a traumatic experience together. And what I've noticed is, when we go through trauma, we tend to push pause on desire. Psychologically, it's hard to experience desire when you are in a trauma. Do you know what I mean? So, and if you think about it, that makes sense. Like when you're going through trauma, when you've been through trauma, I know when I've been through trauma, I'm not focused on what I want, on manifesting. I'm usually focused on getting through, surviving. You know what I mean? Like, right? So I think this is a very interesting concept for a lot of you who've had to manage serious trauma in your life, and looking at, can you have those tandem experiences? Can you both be going through extreme destruction, right? Reorientation of your energy, and also be focused on desire and creation and manifestation. For me, those are often very, I won't say they're oppositional forces, but they're incongruent, if that makes sense, right? Because when you're focused on survival, and I actually talked about this in the coaching audio that you're about to get, I talked about how my ancestors were not focused on thriving. They were focused on surviving. And so that is part of what I have to learn in this life. I often will go to survival mode and fear, because that's what's imprinted in the epigenetics of my lineage, instead of going to, well, what is wellness, what is self-care, what is, self-love look like? I'll go to, what does survival look like? What's the bare minimum? And I have to be careful not to do that. Yeah, well, and Kaz is asking, like, what about people who've, used sex to deal with trauma? And so this is, my teacher would say, an invitation. Probably drive you crazy. This is an invitation to reframe desire. And for me, I don't know if this is true for you. For me, desire and sex can be very different things. So because I've experienced sex as a transactional energy, and sometimes in trauma, if we're using sex as a response, it can be very transactional. So for me, sometimes deep desire, like real kinetic, like visceral desire, for me can sometimes be separate from sex. And so I think it's also about like reorienting yourself. This is an invitation. And remember, you're going to hear me say over and over and over again tonight, because we're talking about retrograde, right? Which is review, re-examine, remember, reprioritize, reintegrate, right? This is a do-over phase of alchemy that we're in, right? So it's interesting, and there's no right or wrong here. It's how you experience it, and it's because how you experience it is how you need to review it. My review in this phase is not going to be the same as your review, because I'm going to be going back through different experiences that may have been oriented in different ways. What I mean by transactional sex is sex without necessarily with a strong desire, sort of, just, and not even really casual, but more like, in a long-term relationship where there's not a lot of energy behind it, right? Which not happened to me a long time ago. Where it's just sort of like, it's a give and take in a relationship, but it's not like desire. You know what I mean? It's not like self-esteem. It's just sort of like transactional in a relationship without much kind of energy attached to it, if that makes sense. That is not my favorite way to be passionate, by the way. That's not my favorite way to be in an intimate relationship. Yeah, like routine. Like, this is what we do, but not because there's passion behind it, So that's one thing too. So as it says on page 2, retrograded periods invite us to slow down and revision how we want to go forward. The whole point, so after a retrograde phase, the energy actually propels forward. So it's not like, you're making progress, then there's a retrograde and you just keep making progress. The way retrograde works for me, and the way it works energetically, I think, on a macro level, is you're making progress, there's a retrograde, it feels like it pulls you back, but it slings you forward. And then there's a phase, you're making progress, then you hit a retrograde, it feels like it's pulling you back, but it slings you forward. And so I get excited for retrograde periods because they're little slingshots. And so for the momentary kind of pause that it creates, which for people like me with a Sag moon, it can be very frustrating, right? Because usually the retrogrades are about, like you can't communicate clearly, you can't manifest easily, right? But if you look at it as an energetic slingshot, that it actually is going to push you ahead a little bit when you come out of the shadow of it on the other side, right? Like a bow, it's exactly right, or a slingshot, Laurie Michelle. Then you actually can start to look at it, at least the way I do, and see it as an opportunity for advancement. So these are invitations and opportunities. And so one of the things I want to tell you, this is and we're happy to share this with you, this is the 2021 retrograde calendar of planets. So you can see Mercury goes retro a lot, right? It is, last time Mercury went retrograde was May 29th, and then it went direct again on June 22nd. So right now, the planets that are retrograde are Saturn is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, Neptune is retrograde, Chiron will go retrograde on July 15th. Did I say Jupiter already? It's a lot of retrograde activity. So these are all opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. One of the reasons that I'm doing this class with you right now is because we have so much retrograde activity this year, and we're in an alchemy program where we're attuned to all of this. As you guys teach, as you guys share, a lot of you have clients that you work with, this can, and in my opinion, should be part of the conversations that you're having as a healer. Because if a client comes to you and is sharing experiences with you, and you can put it in the context of a retrograde phase, then it helps them to understand it. It also helps them to anticipate the next time this happens. It's like, okay, and so let's look now, at when the next time Chiron will be retrograde, or the next time Mercury will be retrograde, and get them to kind of get excited about it. Does that make sense? So my intention is that you'll learn something about retrograde phases tonight, and then you'll be able to share that. Yeah, and let me know. Lena says she's confused, so let me know. I'm happy to, if I know this is complex stuff, so if there's something that is confusing, let me know, and I will try to come at it from a different direction. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of chat about sex and energy in the feed, and I don't want to take us too far off course tonight, but I will say, if you guys are interested in having a conversation about sex and relationships in August, maybe, up to you. We don't have to do it. But it might be interesting just to schedule like a chat, like an hour long, just let's talk about sex, you know, because we're in that phase of alchemy, and the July calendar is a little too compacted for it. But in August, you know, we could do like an evening, you know, cocktail tea hour, and to talk about sex and the energetics of sex. I think it'd be an interesting conversation. I'm super down to have the conversation. Okay, so because there's a lot of energy around it, and I try to teach by following the energy line. And then if it's not interesting to you, like, it's optional, so you don't have to come, you know what I mean? Because I would never like require that to be a conversation we would have. But sex is such a, you know, important part of how we connect energetically in this lifetime, and a lot of people have questions about how that works, and I have my own thoughts and theories, so we should do that. Sex chat sounds really weird, but it could be really cool. So Alexis and Claire and I will take that up and figure out a good time for that. Okay, so now we're going to look at the middle of page 2, where it says retrograde planets, technically speaking. Yeah. So the term retrograde motion, I do want to point your attention to this particular paragraph because it's kind of a technical issue, comes from the illusion that another planet is orbiting the sun in reverse, which stargazers have observed since ancient times. The backward motion of any planet in the zodiac is actually an optical illusion. From our perspective, the relative positions of Earth and other planets and how they move around the sun make it look like planets spend time in reverse. You can visualize the retrograde motion illusion like two runners in a race, okay? It looks like you're sprinting, trying to catch up with the runner ahead of you, and this runner gets tired, so they start to slow down. It's really not a reverse, it's a slowing. But because you don't slow down, it looks like that person is slowing down. Have you ever run at a relay race? That's kind of what retrograde activity is like. So those planets slow down. They don't go backward, but they slow down, but we don't. And so it looks like they do. And so it feels like a backward activity, even though that's not actually what's happening. We're just running past them. So retrograde is more about the pace of the planets and us outpacing those planets for a brief period of time. Yeah. Okay. Now each retrograde, and you may know all of this already, but I like to say in case you don't, each retrograde has what we call a shadow phase. It's what we call in the shadow of Mercury retrograde, right? Or out of the shadow of Mercury retrograde. Or drive next to a train. That's the same example too. So for me, it's a few days ahead and a few days behind. It's kind of like, you know, with the phases of the moon, right? 24 hours on either side. 48 hours is really pretty much the extent. Some people talk about a 5 and 7 day Mercury retrograde shadow. I just haven't noticed that. So I tend to think of it as 2 to 3 days on either side of the retrograde period. You'll notice what it feels like for you. I can always tell when Mercury's about to be retrograde. I can feel the shadow of it, but that's me kind of tuning into it really closely for 20 years. So I think the more you tune into these phases and start to notice them and pay attention to them, the more you'll be attuned to what that shadow phase or that shadow period feels like. Yeah, well, because they are slowing down, Jax, and we are moving ahead of them. So it's not that it's not reversed, but it is behind us. Do you know what I mean? We are outpacing them. So there's an alchemy in the relationship of the pace of the planetary movements that changes. So it's not a backward, but it's definitely us outpacing them. Does that make sense? And then that period ends. Yeah. So it's slowing. It's a calibration in the relationship between us and each of these planets, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, for sure. So it's a great question from Kenneth. If someone's ruling planet is Mercury, can they be more sensitive to it? Of course, right? But you don't need to be, you know. And I'll tell you something else. If you were born during a retrograde phase of any planet, this is your area of expertise. People who were born during a retrograde, whatever it was, that is your medicine. You're here to teach us how to navigate those phases because you naturally know how to navigate them. So it's very interesting for you. If you haven't had a good astrologer do your natal chart, you should, because they'll be able to tell you if you had any retrograde activity happening when you were born. But that is kind of I always call it the double click. You know what I mean? If you were born during a retrograde, you already double clicked on this. You won the retrograde prize. And so you're going to have extra skills and abilities. Yvonne's like, great. So Millie's Saturn is retrograde. So Millie's going to ride this wave that you and I are all riding right now more easily than we are. Because she's got skills that pay the bills. So anyway, see, Millie can teach us. How do you do it, Millie? And you can say, I'm so glad you asked. Let me tell you. She can wear a little button that says, I was born during Saturn retrograde. Ask me how. Does that make sense? Yeah, and Karen's right. If you Google, born during Saturn retrograde, born during Mercury retrograde, you're gonna you're gonna be inundated with information. As with everything, when you Google it, filter it through the lens of your common sense. There's some weird stuff out there when it comes to astrology. But yeah, so. Let me turn the next page. So we're going to look together at page 4. And we're going to start with Mercury. Mercury. Yeah, you certainly can. I look teary-eyed. I don't know. It might be the camera. I had to change my camera to make this happen, so I don't know. I'm not crying. I do have a lot of eyeliner on. And I took Zyrtec for my allergies today, so I don't know. But I feel good. Thank you for noticing. So Mercury. So what it says here is the law of attraction based on the Hermetic principles teaches us that everything we manifest is done through thought, and our thoughts are sometimes difficult to manage. And Mercury retrograde, it's interesting. Mercury governs not just your external communications, but it governs your thoughts and your internal communications. And again, that's one of the things, at least for me, I actually really enjoy Mercury retrograde because it's a chance to actually kind of interrogate my internal conversations that I have with myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you, but I have kind of a running monologue all the time inside. And during Mercury retrograde, it's like this opportunity to ask myself, are these thoughts true? Is this conversation productive? Am I being as kind to myself as I can be? Like, again, it's a review of that, right? So I don't know. I don't know if you find that interesting too, but it also governs your internal your inner monologue too. You make your reality with your thoughts. Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to reclaim your thinking as a magic wand of creation. Isn't that a fun concept? To reclaim your thinking as a magic wand of creation. So here are the opportunities, and it's here on your worksheets. We're on page 4. Rework old projects, reevaluate communication patterns, reclaim your voice, redo something. And it also is the best time to go through an old relationship and make peace with it. An old breakup that you still haven't kind of reconciled, where you think, oh, I wish it could have been different, or I wish it had ended differently, or things like that. This is the perfect time to go back and make peace with something that maybe didn't end exactly the way you wish it had, right? To refocus your thoughts, to reconsider your direction, to reframe your perspective. And so you can, choose to write here if you want. You don't have to. Some of you don't like to write and journal, and I get it. But the question to you is, the perspective and thoughts I desire look like. And so it's about articulating your desire through your communication. So what does that look like for you? How do you want to communicate? How do you want to express? How do you want to or need to shift your internal communications to be more accurate or to be more aligned with love, right? What about a toxic family member? So Mercury retrograde is a chance to reevaluate all of your communications within all of your relationships. Now Venus is the chance to reevaluate the relationships themselves. When Venus is retrograde, that's when we go back and look and say, do I need this relationship, right? Is it serving me? Am I sovereign in this relationship? Is it supportive of my highest good? That's a Venus retrograde question. But I will say, and I have said this for years, I don't think anybody can compel you to stay connected to anyone in your life who's toxic, right? I think that's ultimately such a personal decision about how you navigate relationships and where you stay and where you leave. But I really do. I think this is an opportunity to look and say, am I maximizing my opportunities for communication? Am I maximizing the effectiveness of my communication? Am I communicating clearly? Is the way I'm communicating resonant with, consonant with who I want to be in the world? And if not, how can I change my patterns of communication to be more aligned? Yeah, it's interesting. Elena says, asks, how do the retrogrades relate to the alchemical child we were trying to accept? So Mercury retrograde is how you communicate with her, or him, or them, or however you conceive your alchemical child. So Mercury says, is this how you want to communicate with the inner child? Right? Are you being as kind as you can be? Are you being as generous as you can be? Are you being as honest and forthright as you can be with that inner alchemical child? Does that make sense? Yeah. In a way they are, Janisa. I think that's very true. So how you're communicating gets revisited at Mercury retrograde. The next page, number 5, is Venus retrograde. Venus governs love and relationships and beauty. I have a friend who, and I'll come back. If you guys missed the first part where I talked about the alchemical child, I'll touch briefly on that. It's a very quick concept, but just so you make sure you, the inner child, so you're following. A lot of people talk about beauty at Venus retrograde. They'll say like, oh, don't get your hair done at Venus retrograde. Don't change your makeup. I've heard that for years. Have you guys had that experience? Because I have not. I mean, I guess I don't worry about it too much, but I tend not to think of Venus retrograde as a time not to change anything about your appearance. But I would be very curious to know if you guys have had that experience, because I'm open to you changing my mind. I've just heard it for so long that I'm like curious, does anybody really have these experiences? Oh, good. Yeah, so the alchemical child is this concept from, structural alchemy, right? The foundational alchemy. That when we get to conjunction, which is where we are now, that basically what you're doing is you're integrating the masculine and the feminine, and then there's something called the alchemical conception, where you basically birth a new you that's almost like a child. And then you get to raise that child, and you get to birth and raise and support and learn how to love that child, which is really just a reborn you. Does that make sense? You cut your bangs during a Venus retrograde and you don't recommend it. Okay, well, maybe this happens. No beauty changes during Venus retrograde. Okay. Like I said, I'm open to you changing my mind. I've just been very curious because I've heard it for so many years, and it's like I haven't had a bad experience, but I also haven't been that focused on it. Yeah, Danielle says, I'm a double Venus and I stay away from the beauty parlor, and I opt not to buy new clothes or things that beautify my home. Done and done. This is very interesting to me. Kind of fun to talk about, right? So Venus, as it talks about in your worksheet, this is page 5, rules the feminine, right? Your Venus, we've talked about your Venus, right? Mine's in Virgo, so the sign that your Venus is in tells you a lot about how you run your feminine energy. It's also about redefining relationships, and not just the people in your life, but the patterns of relationships in your life, especially the unhealthy ones that you keep repeating. So it's, we said, get ready to tip the karmic scales, especially if you're the one who owes a debt. So this is a really good time to go back through your relationships and ask, is there something that needs to be healed or reconciled? And if so, that is a good time to decide to do that, right? I love that you guys are still talking about hair in the feed. If Amanda's asking if your North Node was retrograde. So, kind of anything retrograde in your chart for me is, again, a sign that this is an area of extra focus for you. So I would look at it that way. Okay, so during Venus retrograde, here are your opportunities, okay? Reevaluate your relationships, reconsider your relationship patterns, reclaim your self-worth and your self-value. A lot of you are doing that in your life. You're in these phases of reclaiming your sovereignty and your power, so this is a great time. Reconnect with love, including old love. reconsider what you really value and need, redefine beauty. So maybe you don't change your physical appearance or to do something different, but maybe you redefine beauty, right? So that could be a good opportunity for you as well. And then to reclaim peace, because remember, Venus is also about peace and nurturing and softness and tenderness and how you experience all of these energies and redefining all of that, which I think is really important. And Venus will go retrograde December 19th this year, just in time for Christmas. And Venus will go direct on January 29th of 2022. So get your hair done before Christmas. Yeah. Did you? Erica said, just experienced this with my ex-best friend. There was an aspect of our relationship that was dysfunctional, and when I tried to address it, it was like she couldn't hear me. Well, remember, people can only communicate with you from their level of conscious awareness, not from yours, right? So, it's really about knowing to what extent people can hear you, because sometimes it's like they really can't hear you. So, and I've had that experience too in relationship where I've tried to talk or, have a conversation about an issue. And I've also had people, especially when I was younger, not so much anymore at my age now, like I pretty much get, what this life thing is about. But when I was younger, I remember a couple of times in relationships having people try to talk to me about things that I don't think I was there. And I've looked back through the fullness of time, and I've said to myself, I wish I had been able to be there so I could have responded. Do you know what I mean? So Venus retrograde, Erica, we could also look at this as a phase where we are going to redefine how we think about whether we have these conversations in relationships or not. Redefine our understanding of people's conscious awareness in our relationships. Are they ready, in other words, for the evolution of the relationship? And sometimes people aren't. You know what I mean? That's right. Lisa Taylor put it beautifully. Not everyone has the tools to hear you. And so we can take that personally, which I have before, and maybe some of you have too, or we can look at that and say, that's where they are. And it's tough. Yeah. So Lynn, we're on page 5 with Venus retrograde. And so again, there's a little journal prompt at the bottom. So it's the relationships, possessions, and beauty I desire look like, and then you can fill in the blanks there. It's tough, Those are the real crucibles of life. Mars retrograde, now we're on page 6. Mars is a symbol of desire, passion, and willpower. It's the part of you that's driven to go after what you want. Mars is desire and will. Remember, Mars is the planet of war, right? Aries is ruled by Mars, and so you can think about Aries energy. Ares is the god of war in Greek mythology. So all of these concepts of war and strength and battle and will and stuff, right? This is all part of the energy of this particular planet. And so how I told you every retrograde is a test? Venus retrograde can be a test of your relationships. Mars retrograde is a test of your communication. So for me, Mercury is a test of your communication. Mars for me is a test of your will. How bad do you want it? You know what I mean? Are you willing to fight for it? Is what comes up. And I have confronted some real challenges in, a Mars retrograde period where the answer was, I don't want it that bad. I don't want to have to fight for it if that's what it's going to take, right? Oh, I love that, Erica. Isn't it cool when you can see your own evolution? It is really cool because you should celebrate, you know what I mean? It's a really cool thing. Yeah, really cool. So reclaiming your energy, reconsidering what you really want. Are you willing to fight for it? Are you going to put a stake in the ground and go, this, right? This is what I want. Reevaluating how, and if you take action on your own behalf. Revising your fighting habits. Do you fight fair? You may want to reevaluate that when Mars is retrograde. And then reconnecting with your really deep primal passion. What's that way down south kind of primal desire that you're holding, right? Yeah. So I don't love Mars retrograde either. I don't. My Mars is in Aries, so I'm a tough nut when it comes to that energy. I do want to point out to you, Mars is not on here because the only break I think we get in 2021 astrologically is that Mars is direct all year. Mars does not have a retrograde period in 2021. Isn't that fun? So we don't have to reevaluate war this year. We don't have to reevaluate our will or our strength or any of that. Pretty exciting. So if you want to find out what was retrograde during your chart, the best thing to do is to have a really good astrologer run your natal chart. And you might be able to Google search and by your birth date and time and find out what planets were retrograde when you were born. But if you haven't had a full astrological consultation, I recommend it. Tara, who's our lead astrologer, does them, but I don't think she's doing them right now. She's got her hands full. But there are some really talented astrologers. I think there might be some in our community too. So anyway, I highly recommend having a good astrologer run your natal chart. It's kind of a game changer, and then they can actually do an annual progression, is what they call it, of your chart to kind of show you what's happening with the state of your chart today progressed. So it's kind of fun to have one of those done at the beginning of each year or right at the end of each year for the next year to have your chart progressed. Yeah. Okay, now, so the action and passion I desire look like, and then you can answer that question if you want. On page 7, we're going to look at Jupiter retrograde. For me, this is the test of truth and confidence. When Jupiter's retrograde, and Jupiter this year is retrograde now. It turned retrograde on June 20. It will go direct on October 17. So we are in a Jupiter retrograde period now. Yeah, Tara's last name is Aal, A-A-L. And you can find her on Facebook and check her out. And if she can't help you, she probably knows someone who could. But she's fantastic. She's really fantastic. And she goes to astrology conferences, and she's a professional astrologer. She's real good at what she does. So, yeah. Okay, so Jupiter retrograde, reclaiming your truth. What is true for you? And testing your truth and testing your confidence. It's also about testing, and this is why this is such a tough phase. How do you guys feel about Jupiter retrograde? Are you feeling it now? This is also a test of, are you on your path? So things happen during Jupiter retrograde that are little taps on the shoulder, like, hey, you should go, hey, go over there, right? And you have to pay attention, because this is kind of, if I'm right in these phases or tests, this is like, is this really what you want to be doing? Is this really where you want to be going? Is this really how you want to spend your time? And I'm seeing it in our community. I'm seeing it in myself. I'm seeing it in my family. Like, people contemplating, leaving jobs they've been in for a long time. Or I've seen so many people say, right, Christiana? I've seen so many people say, oh my God, I'm going to do it. I'm finally going to follow my path as a healer. You know what I mean? And it's like, now they've got this little burst of confidence. So it can actually be very productive. It can actually really, again, think slingshot, right? It's like, are you sure you want it? Are you sure you want it? Are you sure you want it? And then it goes bing, and it shoots you forward. We will be out of this Jupiter retrograde October 17th. So you get to marinate in this for all of July, all of August, all of September, and 2/3 of October. I'm feeling it. So if you're feeling it too, we can commiserate with each other. So reclaim your confidence. This is get back in the driver's seat, right? Who's driving the bus here, right? We gotta decide that we're driving the bus, where we're gonna go, and that you're confident and competent to do the work that's needed to lead your life. Reconsider what's realistic for you to do. So a lot of times, I don't know about you, I will bite off more than I can chew. And so Jupiter retrograde for me is always this reevaluation of like, you'll say, so you can do all of these things, but should you? Is that actually realistic, whatever it is you're setting out to do? Reconnect with your true path, redefine your truth is another hallmark of this phase, and then reevaluating opportunities and potential for growth. And we're here. So the question is, the opportunities and truth I desire look like. Now, this is where I'm going to tell you, during a pandemic, during trauma, during stress, during whatever, it's very hard to say, this is what I want. But I'm going to tell you right now, we are on the edge of a new moon on Friday. It's my dad's birthday Friday, and he gets to have a birthday on a new moon. Do you know what you want? I mean, we are in the shadow now of this moon. We'll have a dark moon on Thursday, and then there we are, right? So this is actually, the next 48 hours is so important for you to be articulating this. And, you know, a lot of us have like not been driving the bus for a little while because we've been so focused on whatever we've been focused on for the past 2 years. And so now it's like, yeah, we got to get back in and drive this thing again. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to drive itself. It's been sitting in the garage too long. But if you're going to drive the bus, you got to know why you're driving it, where you're driving it, right? You got to have your map and your destination. So, so what is it for you? I really want you to, if there was one thing I would want you to take away from tonight that I think can be a real game changer for you for the rest of this year, is forcing yourself, if you can, to articulate what it is that you want. Without fear, without second guessing it, without walking it back, without going, I really want this, and then going, yeah, but I know it's not realistic, and I know now's not a good time, and I know that my partner won't want it. It's like, just you. What do you really want? So that you can give the universe something of a focus, right? Something to direct its arrows toward. Otherwise, the universe will choose that on your behalf. Life unfolds, whether we live it with intention or not, right? So it's like the universe, I think, when you don't fill in those blanks or get in the driver's seat, kind of like hires a driver. And sometimes you end up in a place that you didn't think you were going to be, right? So interesting when it comes to Jupiter. Now Saturn on page 8, Saturn is retrograde now. Saturn goes direct a week before Jupiter. So I would say October is going to be a really interesting month. If you look at the energetics of this timeline I'm showing you, Mercury is going to go retrograde on September 26th. It'll be back direct on October 18th. So October 10th is Saturn direct. October 17th, Jupiter direct. October 18th, Mercury direct. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. And then if you look, Pluto will be direct on October 6th. 4 of these critters are going to catch up, right? The motion will be congruent again in that second and third week of October, right ahead of Samhain. Happy New Year, everybody, right? Now, Saturn is a trickster. I mean, not a trickster, but Saturn is a taskmaster. Saturn is the planet of hard knocks. It's the big paternal sort of father figure in your chart, right? And Saturn governs time for me in so many ways. It is the planet of wanting to take charge, manifesting success. It's also the planet of being disciplined and being practical and being focused and being on time and being structured and being linear and being logical. It's like it's a very masculine planet. Right? Yeah, we will share this chart, by the way. We put this together, so we'll share this with you so you have it, because it'll be what I would do is, if you have a wee moon or a calendar that you love, your witch's calendar or whatever you use, then just kind of plot these on your calendar or put them in your phone, you know what I mean, as a calendar reminder, just to give yourself a guidepost. And then if you're going to do that, I would mark also, again, the 2 days before, which is the opening of the shadow, and maybe 2 to 3 days after, which is the closing of the shadow. Because if you only mark their retrograde actual dates of transformation, you'll miss these kind of shadow periods too. So it's a good time to reassess commitments in relationships, commitments to your job and your work. It's also associated with karma, right? So each of your actions has an outcome or an effect. And so this is also a test of integrity and accountability, right? Are you going to do what you say? Is your word good? You know what I mean? Can people trust you? So this is the time to reevaluate your goals and reevaluate success. What does success look like? When I was a coach and my clients used to tease me, they were like, don't ask me. I know what you're going to ask me. What does success look like? Because if you don't, and it was the first thing I would ask, like, hey, if you've hired me for 6 months, if I'm successful, how do you know? And I would make them write it down. And then 6 months later, for my evaluation, I would use that document as an evaluation tool. I would say, this is what you told me success looks like. So let's see how I did, and kind of bullet by bullet. It's good to do the same thing for you, right? At the end of 2021, if you're successful, how will you know? Write that down. Write it down at the new moon on Friday. And then on December 31st, take out that letter to yourself and read it. And because what you will do in that exercise is it forces you to look at what's come to you. At the end of the year, we're usually looking at like, well, I could have done this, or I should have done that, or thinking about what's behind you, instead of saying, look, I said success looked like A, B, and C, and 2 out of 3 of those things happen. Pop the champagne, right? I think it's a really good idea and an exercise. Reconsider what you've committed to and who you've committed to. That's very important in this phase 2. And then reclaiming your authority, redefining and remaking rules. What rules are you living by? Conscious and subconscious, because those are programs that are running the back end of your computer, right? And then reconsider your limits. Do you need to recalibrate how you're spending your time, or what you're committing to, or the size of a project, in order to be able to complete it in a good way, right? Well, but you know what, Desiree, here's the thing. That's what I do every year on New Year's Eve, is I look through my new moon intention journal. And I look at every month for the whole year and my little intentions that I wrote down. And not all of them come to pass. Not all of them are meant to. But it's really fun to celebrate the ones that have. And if you don't keep those little records through the year, you don't have a benchmark, because you may forget. By December 31st, will you really be thinking about, what was happening on July 6th or 7th, and I don't know. For me, probably not. I won't remember this exact new moon unless I write down what the intentions are. Yeah. Elizabeth Moore, we did cover that just a little bit earlier. So when you go back, if you missed the first part, we spent a little bit of time talking about what retrogrades in your chart means. So not to worry, it's here. It's something that we talked about a little bit earlier on. And I don't want to recap too much because I only have you for another 15 minutes and I want to do a little meditation, but it's there. Okay, now the next one is Uranus retrograde. Uranus is also not retrograde this year, so this is not one that we have to necessarily, consider in a deep way, but this is your test of freedom and authenticity. Are you constrained? What's holding you back? Are you really being your fullest, most vibrant and authentic self? And if not, what are the kind of calibrations and alignments that you need to make or you need to set in order to get yourself back on track? Yeah. And so reclaiming a liberation, redefining what it means to live authentically, reconsidering ways that you might be ready to break free from old beliefs and old patterns, and re-looking at anything that keeps you stuck in the past. Yeah. It was retro, it was. When was it retro? I'm trying to remember what the dates were. It was retro. Every planet goes retrograde at some point, but it's about like the proximity to where we are now. Yeah, Bianca said this is one she needs to do. A lot of us, this is a good one, right? Because you need to look at liberation and also where you're held back and see where one needs to shift in order to accommodate the other. Neptune retrograde is happening right now. Neptune went retrograde on June 25. It will be direct on December 1st. So this is one of the December planets. The rest of them are mostly October for going direct, but this was one of the December ones. So this is page 10. We're on the last page. Actually not, we've got 2 more pages. Neptune is the test of compassion and joy. And Neptune is retrograde right now. So during this phase, this is a time to reconnect spiritually, to expand your consciousness, to understand the nature of illusions of the third dimension, right? So these human barriers and constraints that we place upon ourselves, and seeing those as illusions rather than as a measure of truth. So reclaiming your childlike wonder, right? These are all very, Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so these are very like Piscean kind of energies. If you're a Pisces, this will all resonate with you, I think. Reclaiming your childlike wonder, redefining what it means to be compassionate, reclaiming faith and joy and magic and imagination. So this is about dreams and cosmic connections. Maybe we don't need to reevaluate that right now. Maybe that's why it's not, happening for us on some level, more intensely. I'm noticing this one is not affecting me as much. Usually when Neptune is retrograde, I find myself sort of in a constant dreamy phase, but I haven't been that this time. So I don't know. You can tell me if it's been affecting you a lot. And if your Neptune's in Pisces, which mine is, maybe that's why I'm able to navigate it with a little more ease. Because again, where it is in your chart and if what sign it's in will dictate how you navigate the retrogrades as well. Okay, Pluto retrograde. I'm on page 11. This is about reclaiming your power. This is the test of your power. Power and attachment to things and to people and to experiences. So this is reclaiming your power, understanding what deserves your energy and what doesn't, what's holding you down and holding you back, reclaiming your ability to regenerate and deciding what needs to be regenerated. And Pluto is retrograde now. Pluto will be direct, like I said earlier, on October 6th. So this is your test of what am I attached to, what needs to be reborn, and isn't this the perfect time to go through an alchemical process, especially this particular phase? Because again, this is the reintegration now, right? So it's like, what am I attached to? What do I need to be attached to? What are habits that are serving me? What are habits that aren't serving me, right? So this has been like big work for me in my world lately. And then Chiron retrograde. Chiron is retrograde starting the 15th of July. So starting next week, Chiron will be retrograde. This is the test of healing and wounding. This is the test of have you found the medicine in your wound, right? And so this is about going back, rewriting the wounding story with a happier ending, which I love. Don't you love that? It's like a chance to revisit some of these wounded places, but to infuse those spaces with a new sense of joy and life and healing and compassion, right? On your birthday, isn't that cool, Dorothy? What an opportunity, right? To reevaluate at an important time in your life. So during Chiron retrograde, go right for the most tender places in you. Love them and let them speak to you. The more uncomfortable they feel, the more they need your attention. It's also embracing the strong spirit within you and the wisdom of your heart. And that's where we are right now, too. Is this your hardest one, too? Yeah. It is a happy ending. And I think we can, if we're willing to do it, if we're willing to go back to the wound place and come to it with a new level and layer of wisdom and compassion, I think that's the fastest path to healing. What most people do is they never go back to the wounded place because of fear. Well, if I go back, what if I go back and it's worse? What if I go back? What if I go back and it starts all over again? Or what if I go back and I don't know how to navigate that? But it's like, what if you go back and you find your healing there? What if you go back and the pathway to the transformation of that experience is totally clear? And what if you can go back, and I'm not saying physically go back, I'm saying energetically go back, right? And rewrite the ending of that story. It's an interesting possibility, isn't it? And eventually, how do you know you've healed? Whose quote is that? You can tell when you've healed when you can tell the story without crying. And I think we all, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I have stories that I can't tell still without crying. But I have some stories that I used to tell that used to make me cry, and I can tell them now without crying. And that's how I know I've healed, when I can tell the story. And then I think the ultimate healing, at least for me, is when I don't even need to tell the story anymore. That's when you know you've really healed, I think, is like the story isn't even there anymore, because the story itself is, as with everything else, right? Energetic. Yep. All right, cheers to that. Any questions before we do our little meditation? And then I'm going to break. Not physically, I'm not going to leave, but I'm just going to tell anyone who doesn't want to stay for readings to sign off. I'm doing our readings this evening after class, but I do want to lead you through a brief meditation first. Well, the tears tell you there's still work to do, which is great. You're only here because there's work to do. If your work was done, you wouldn't be here anymore. So great, let's do the work. Right? I mean, this is what we're here for. If you have planets retrograde in your chart, am I constantly tested in these ways? No. In fact, you may have greater expertise than the rest of us, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure, Katrina, right? See, Kaz is just sentimental. Yeah, I'm glad that was helpful for you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Well, the work has just begun. So I want you to roll your shoulders back. This is just a brief little meditation, but I thought it'd be fun for you tonight. When I say that Saturn is the planet of manifestation, in some ways, yeah, it is. Because Saturn is a planet of materialization, right? Saturn is about the thing, right? About the physicality of it. And that's what manifestation ultimately is. And Saturn is the how, right? Like Saturn is about structure, organization, process, and that's a big part of manifestation too. Chiron is December 19th. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad, you guys. All right, so let's roll our shoulders back. And I'm going to have you can close your eyes. You can leave them open if you want. I think closing your eyes is nice. And the reason we close our eyes when we meditate is because it actually potentiates your other senses. So when your eyes are closed, you can hear better, right? Smell better. But you can leave your eyes open if you want. And for this exercise, I really want you to bring your attention to the top of your head, your crown chakra, the sides of your head. We're going to really focus on the brain. So I want you to imagine the space inside of your head. And I want you to imagine that we can pick up your brain and just sort of sit it over here for a second. Sometimes I wish I could, especially when I'm overthinking. It's like, boop, boop, brain is off, right? And I want you to imagine that since we've made all this beautiful room now by removing your cute brain, now we have all this space to kind of decorate. And I want you to imagine bringing all of your attention in here to that space. So we're leaving the outside world. We're leaving behind all of our senses other than just our capacity to see and sense this space within. And I want you to imagine this space inside of your head almost as a little personal sanctuary or sacred space. And for our work this month, which is all about integration and pleasure and connecting with desire and what you want. And the desire this month, again, is not sexual desire. It's generative desire in the broader sense of like, what do you want? What do you desire? What do you want to create? What do you want to build? What do you want to experience? What do you want to manifest? And again, not even things. It's like the feelings and the sensations. What's driving you? So in here, in this little space, nothing is allowed in here unless it fires you up, unless it turns you on. So I want you to imagine that this is a little room. I've handed you the keys. It belongs to you. If it's easier for you, you can actually imagine this as a room somewhere. But for me, I like little spaces. It's easier for me to do it. And I like the fact that I can travel with it. It's in my head. So in this little room, empty it out. Sometimes it's helpful to imagine sweeping the floor. I mean, you're literally creating this space. And you can pop a window in if you'd like, or a skylight if you want to bring light in. Some of us, like me, I love a dark, cozy space. So you can imagine this room flooded with light, or you can imagine it really cavey and cozy, like a little, pleasure den. And if it's dark and you want to add some lights, let's add some lights. We can hang some lights, a lantern or two. We can hang some fairy lights or Christmas lights, just to bring a little bit of light into the room. And you can imagine the effect of that. And you can, anything that you love should go here. So one of my favorite things, I love sheepskin rugs. I can't have them here at the house because my animals, it drives them crazy. But I just love sheepskin rugs. One day when I don't have animals anymore, my house is going to be covered in them. I'll sleep on them. So I'm going to throw down a big, fluffy sheepskin rug. In fact, I think underneath that, I'm going to throw down some like Indian rugs with some beautiful mandala patterns. Then I'm going to throw down a sheepskin rug or two on top of that. And on the one wall, I think I'm going to pop in a little fireplace or maybe just some lanterns with some extra. I want some candlelight and some firelight on this wall over here. And really take a moment to just appreciate, are there crystals that you want to envision in this little pleasure room that you're setting up? Like I almost imagine there's a little altar over here. What would I put there? I mean, you can use your imagination. I'm imagining like a carnelian wand would be good to have in here. A couple pieces of orange calcite, like maybe a sphere, or like the flame from tomorrow's class would be good there. Maybe I can imagine setting up a grid. And, you know, what are the walls looking like? Are the walls painted? Are they a color, right? If you're indoors, if you're outdoors, you know, if you're in a beach house, maybe there's sand on the floor. What does it look like? And what does it feel like? What's the temperature like? I'm a texture person, so I'm going to throw some blankets all over the place. I'm going to get some really good looking down pillows. Big, oversized, overstuffed cushions, and I'm going to line all of the walls so I can lay anywhere I want, pull them up, put them under my knees, under my arms. And I'm going to let some very light music play. And now think about maybe you want to put some art on the wall, some pictures that inspire you, images of Shakti or images of Kali or images of Sarasvati for creativity maybe, things that kind of stir your passions. What would you put on the wall? Maybe a statue of Venus on your altar. And maybe also a statue of Mars to balance the energies and bring in the divine masculine would be nice. And so as you're visualizing this space and really crystallizing it, like down to the details, so that, you know, when you can imagine opening a door and you can see everything just as you would want it, and making it as inviting as you can. You don't have a budget here, so pull it all in, put a big candelabra in the corner, right? I love it. Teresa's sitting in the bamboo garden next to the pond in a big saucer chair. This is feeling well. I'll come to your vision too. It sounds really nice. And so I want you to set the intention that this space that you've created, that we can project this as a hologram into a nearby dimension. Okay, so we're just going to hold the space for this to now become a hologram that exists on the edge of your field. And you can at any time, like, you know, when you're sitting in traffic, when you're at a doctor's appointment that's stressing you out, when the kids are, you know, fighting with each other, you can go and pull this hologram forward and jump into your space and just be there. But the rule for the space is nothing can come in here that doesn't bring you joy and pleasure and peace. This is your space to just experience divine contentment. And I want to encourage you for this experience. Do you feel like you've crystallized it enough? You can kind of see it. Maybe you can even smell it. Like the smell in this room has kind of changed over the last few minutes. It's like there's a sweet smell kind of in the room, like almost like a sandalwood. I'm not burning anything, so you're on a spaceship, Sherry. I love that. Imagine setting your intentions from this room. Wouldn't that be really amazing to set your intentions here? Because in this room, when you say, hey, what do you want? It's like you're coming at that question from such a different place, from a relaxed, expansive, soft, comfortable, supported, encouraged, right? Stable, grounded place when you're in this space, right? Imagine manifesting from here. Because from here, it's easy to say, ooh, I want more of this, I want more of that. You know, I want comfort, I want softness, I want someone in this space to, you know, to experience this with me. I want a partner to enjoy my desire. You know what I mean? Like you start to kind of pull in a different vibration than if you're just manifesting cold, sitting on the couch going, I want, you know, I claim, right? Oh, that's cool. Sherry Herring, she thought about sandalwood before I said that that's what it smelled like in here. Isn't this amazing? And so when you are in a retrograde phase and you're hitting these obstacles and these tests, this again is another space for you to come to and inhabit. And the more clearly you imagine this space and the more often you visit it, the faster it will be for you to get in and out. You know what I mean? And again, it will transform your energy. And if you communicate from this place, imagine if you were really upset about something, angry maybe, and you were going to write an email or, you know, express your temper in some way. What if you went into this place first before you communicated? Wouldn't it shift how you respond a little bit? It's like if we could live our life through this lens of like, again, just the energetics of feeling held, protected, safe, warm, encouraged to engage our desires, all of that softens every aspect of your energetic field and your experience too. And so your communications change, your orientation to other people changes. These energies tend to soften and temper resentment, right, and frustration with people. So it can kind of bring down the sense of agitation and discomfort that a lot of us are feeling in this moment, right? The primus state, I like that, or primus. It's beautiful. It is. And this caviness for me is very alchemical too. The original alchemists used to do exercises like this. They would do visualizations like this, and they would imagine that first they were in the dark cave and they were working through all of the challenges of their past and their lineage and their, you know, and they were physically kind of pulling it up with their hands, and then they would purify it, and then the entire cave would become purified. You know what I mean? And then it would glow red at certain points of the alchemical process to warm them. And then it would go, you know, to this beautiful glowing white as they went through each of the stages of alchemy. And so they would do visualizations like this too. So it kind of connects us back to that lineage too. You can use my room as your space. Yeah, of course. So share this with other people too, and teach your kids how to do this. I've taught my kids how to do something very similar. And so at night when they can't sleep, it's like go to your place. You know what I mean? And for each one of them, it's a different place. For Zoe, it's always beach and water. She's such a water sign, double water, right? So for her, it's always beach and water. Sometimes it is for Nick too, but in his place, sometimes he'll be on a baseball field or whatever, you know what I mean? But teach your kids also, if you have kids or godkids or nieces and nephews, this is a great technique to help with overthinking, to help teach mindfulness without teaching mindfulness, right? Because you have to be in this moment to be able to imagine the space, and you're not getting distracted, right? So you're letting go of everything else in order to bring your attention in the present moment. And that in itself is a really form of deep meditation, right? So now let's sort of imagine closing the figurative doors. We're going to leave this space behind. And we're going to invite our brain to come back in. I do need my brain. But just knowing that space is always there, it's always available for you, that exists, you've created it, you projected it as a hologram, it exists on the edges of your own energetic field. You can pull that hologram in and push it back out at will. You can create multiples of these holograms, right? In so many ways, this life that we live is a hologram. Why not make good holograms, other holograms? And then what's really amazing is, and you'll believe this, some people probably wouldn't, but I think you guys will. But I'm going to leave you with this. When you do things like this, and it'll freak you out the first time it happens, it's happened to me before. When you do things like this, sometimes down the road, you will end up with a room or a space that looks just like what you just created. And you'll have this moment of deja vu, because these exercises are very real. When we project something as a hologram out into the universe, we start to attract the vibration of it. And so 5 years from now, you may end up buying a house somewhere and in the back corner there's this little room with a window right where you imagined it, and you end up decorating it just like you imagined here. It's really true. So when and if something like that happens to you, it's just we worked some magic. I'm not kidding at all. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. You have to see it to believe it, right? So first you see it and you believe it, and then you manifest it. If you really do this every day and you go inhabit the space and you project that hologram, you are going to start attracting that frequency. Of that, I have no doubt. I've seen it too many times. Pretty cool, right? Well, with that, my friends, session 1 of July is complete. What I forgot to tell you tonight is that the retrogrades have gemstone correspondences, and we put all of those stones in your class tools if you want them. So Mercury retrograde doesn't surprise you, I'm sure. Amazonite. So when Mercury is retrograde, go back through your collection of crystals and work with amazonite. That is going to ease communication, reduce the stress of communication that happens naturally during that phase. Mookaite jasper is the #1 stone for Venus retrograde. I'm sure that won't surprise you either. This is what Mookaite jasper looks like. From Australia, darling. It's the only place. That's so cool that we had 355 in the meditation. I love that. I'm really glad you guys were here. Oh, I forgot to pull out spectralite. Spectralite is for Jupiter retrograde. For Saturn retrograde, it's opalite, which I also forgot to pull out. For Uranus retrograde, which is all about freedom, chrysocolla is really good. Chrysocolla is a stone of emotional freedom and liberation. And then for Neptune retrograde, it's amethyst. I also love aquamarine for a Neptune retrograde because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so there's a lot of Neptunian energy in aquamarine. So I would say you could work with either one, dream amethyst or aquamarine. For Pluto retrograde, which is about power, there's a lot of different stones that you can use. Trawlite's good because you do need third eye for that particular retrograde phase. You wanna navigate. That's a tricky retrograde. You want to navigate it using your best intuition. Azurite's really good for that too. Some people use carnelian for that retrograde. And then prehnite is my favorite stone for Chiron retrograde because that's the wounded healer. And so prehnite is the stone that heals the healer. So for me, there's kind of no alternative to prehnite for the Chiron retrograde. So that's why I was saying I wanted to show you the list. We have them at sagegoddess.com, but you have a lot of these. So go back through your collection. This is what I would do. Go back through your collection if you have them, and make a note and note your calendar on which ones are retrograde. A lot of them are retrograde now, so gather those stones up in particular. And then the next time Mercury goes retrograde, experiment with carrying amazonite for a few months, or 6 weeks, and see if it doesn't go a little bit smoother for you. Because these are well-known gemstone correspondences for those phases too. Yeah. Oh. Jupiter was spectralite for truth. You could do labradorite, you could do larvicite. Truth and vision. You know what I mean? So I always think of visioning stones when I think of that. Yeah. So I'm going to have Alexis post this list. She may have already posted it in your Facebook group, but if she hasn't yet, I'm going to have her post this list, and then you can go to the Facebook group and she'll have links too if you don't have the stones, and then you can grab those. Was that good? Yeah. So Jackie, yeah. So you can rewind this recording, and you can also go to the Facebook group, and I'm gonna make sure that Alexis posts that, and this will all be in your class notes. So not to worry. And you'll have class notes. Usually Alexis and Team SG post your class notes about 3 to 5 days after class. So your class notes will be ready for you soon. Yeah. So are you ready to do readings? I'm going to stay with you. Uh, we're 6:12 now. I think what I'll do is do readings until 7. If that works, we'll do 45 minutes tonight, and then I'll do an hour and 15 tomorrow. I'll add on the extra hour or half hour, 15 minutes to tomorrow's readings. So we'll do 2 to 3:15 tomorrow for readings, because I don't want to take you past 7 o'clock. It's going to be 10 o'clock on the East Coast, which is late. And God knows what time in the UK. Does that sound good? That would be a great wand too, Kaz. I think so. And you could make wands for each one of the retrogrades. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, I would love to see you do that. Okay, so I am going to now switch gears. I'm going to ask my spirit guides to help me be a good, clear, and open channel for wisdom and information that wants to come through. I'm going to ask your spirit guides to help me come a little closer to your field too. And we're going to give thanks for some good wisdom and counsel and advice that's already on its way. Amen, aho, and so it is. Are you ready? I'm going to put some lip gloss on because I've been talking the whole day. I literally was on the phone pretty much since about 7 o'clock this morning. There's a lot to do this week. So my lips. Okay, so let's dive in. The decks. The main one I felt like my spirit guides were asking me to use today is the Kuan Yin Transmission deck, which I love. You know, I love this deck by Alana Fairchild. I have another deck here, the Gabrielle Bernstein Universe Has Your Back. I love that too. But I'm going to go first with Kuan Yin because that's what the spirit guides, I usually let them choose. And we'll see what they choose for tomorrow. Okay. Sarah Hannaberry. She said I would love a reading. It would be my first. How exciting. Well, I'm glad you're here. I love the first time. I love the repeat readings too, but it's always fun to balance it. I like to do a mix of new and continuing. I know, and Casey says hasn't been able to come to readings, so this is great. All right, so for Sarah. Yep. What a great card to start with. Abundant blessings. Your concerns are felt in my heart. By the way, the voice of these cards is Kuan Yin. So you're to imagine that this is Kuan Yin saying this to you. Your concerns are felt in my heart. Any and all problems, the material and the spiritual, are within the realm of my interest and power to resolve. Be peaceful. My blessings are with you. It's interesting. You know what I'm hearing about this? The guides are saying, whatever this is, it's already resolved. Have you been through something that just concluded? If not, it's about to conclude, the guides are saying. Whatever this is, the energy is, this is cycle ending. There's some closure here they're talking about. Does that make sense to you? It's been a challenging process, whatever this is that they're talking about. Seems like you've navigated it with grace. And I feel like on the other side of it is an opportunity for real blessings and expansion. So this feels good, whatever it is, but they're saying if you're still in the middle of whatever this process is they're talking about, if it isn't complete already, it's about to be complete. It's the ending of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. Whatever's coming after this, though, they're showing me some kind of space or delay. I don't know what it is, but it's not like you're going to pick up and start the next cycle right away. There'll be a little bit of a processing time, it seems like. So I hope that's helpful. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about termitalite. Did you see that today? I forgot to tell you. I'm such a rock geek. This is a stone that just came to us from Minas Gerais, Brazil, and I was blown away. It started out as pink tourmaline and grew into lepidolite. So this is both. It's both pink tourmaline and lepidolite. You see the sparkle, little shimmer? And so we called it termitalite because it's both. When have you ever seen, we know about pseudomorphs. Pseudomorphs in geology are when stones start out as one thing and they grow into something else. And we've had a couple of pseudomorphs for you over the years. but I've never had a pink tourmaline lepidolite pseudomorph. So anyway, that's a pretty cool stone if you want to check that out. Okay, Suzanne Black, let's do it. Hi, Suzanne. Suzanne. Let's see what's shaking for you, cutie pie. I like this card a lot. Heart's desire. The manifestation of your heart's desire contains the seeds of fulfillment for many beings. Ask and I shall help you attain your destiny in a way that benefits all. I love that. They're talking about next year. It's interesting. Hold on, let me sense what that is. You're going to be starting something new next year? New project? Feels like professional, feels like work, something different, something new. They keep saying January 2022. It's interesting. They're like being very specific about this. This feels good, whatever this is. Are you planning it? There's some excitement around this. Like you will be excited or you are excited about it. Whatever this is will be successful for you. And will benefit others too. It's a good reminder. A lot of us don't realize that when I tell you this all the time, but when we manifest what we desire, there's usually a benefit for others in the mix there. You know, your dreams are given to you for a reason. Yeah. I'm excited to see what it is for you. What are you bringing us? What are you doing for us? Okay. Paula Vargas. She said, I would love some guidance from Mother Kuan Yin. Here we go. Well, let's do it. I love these cards. Do you like them too? I've always felt connected to Kuan Yin. So for Paula. Lotus born. Your innermost being is eternally pure. No matter what has transpired, what you have done, what you have failed to do, there is a light within you that can never be sullied. Release your shame, embrace your true nature. Well, guys are talking about karmic lineage stuff. That's what this is about, they're saying, on the mother's side. And it's just about, you know, releasing, letting go, moving through, recognizing what is yours, what's not yours. There's some energy on that side that still, you know, comes up for healing. And it's all reconcilable, you know, it's all doable, and it will all happen in time. It doesn't need to be, there's nothing you need to do. But I think it's just an awareness that on your mother's side, it feels like you're carrying some energy that, you know, may or may not belong to you. And so when that comes up, you know, it's about honoring it, recognizing it, but also making space to release it too. A lot of us know what that's like. Yeah. Okay. Aw, Katie shares a birthday with my dad. Happy early birthday to you. A new moon birthday, baby. I mean, come on now. A Cancer new moon on your birthday. Make a good wish for me, Katie. Let's see what the cards have to say for you for a birthday reading for Katie. It's so nice to be with you guys tonight. You know, most of the time after class, I don't really want to go. And it's not that I don't have things to do. I mean, I always have things to do, but I really enjoy your company, and sometimes these kind of casual moments are just sweet. The energy is so nice. It's beautiful outside, so thank you for staying tonight. Lost child. You may sometimes feel as though you have lost your way, but you are never lost to me. Connect to your heart, and you shall find me there. I am always watching over you. Isn't that beautiful? That's interesting what the guides are saying. What's happening with you this year is a reconnection with parts of yourself that maybe you haven't connected with or felt connected to in a really long time. There's like a youthfulness they're talking about, like a young, like a not super young you, but like a adolescent you, or like early 20s you. There's something in this, the super youthful sort of maiden Katie that would be valuable to you now. We always tend to think of ourselves in the past as not having as much wisdom as we do now, and that's probably true. You're certainly wiser. But there is something about that time, the guides are saying, that would be helpful to you now. To remember something about how you were, or how you thought, or how you perceived your world that could actually benefit you today. So I'm trying to ask, what's a good way for you to access this information? Through writing, they're saying. You know, the letter thing we were talking about earlier? Maybe you need to do that. Could you set the intention to have that age of Katie speak to you with wisdom for this year for you? You know what I mean? It's an interesting question, right? Okay. Amanda's Greek. Amanda Suliotis. Hi, Amanda. Would love a first reading if you feel called. Well, welcome in. It's nice to have you here. I'm glad you're here. Amanda. Oh, this deck is a little hard to shuffle. Inner sight. You have been working to unravel a karmic knot, a problem that seems resistant to change and healing. Haven't we all, Amanda? Ask for my help. I can show you the real cause and the path to freedom. Have you asked for help? Sounds like a rhetorical question, but it's really not. Most of us do not ask for help when we need it. It's just a trend I've noticed. Empaths and psychic people don't like to ask for help because, at least in my experience, we think if we ask for help, it's like our gifts aren't real. Like, shouldn't we know how to help ourselves? But we're human, you know what I mean? And it's much easier to read for other people than it is to read for ourselves. And if we had all the keys and the answers and everything to our challenges, I mean, what's the point of being here? We're here to learn how to ask for help. They're talking about you need support right now, and so asking for it from the people around you, from the places around you, from your community, right? It's like, what do you need right now? And they're talking about Fridays. So the Cancer new moon is a really great time to set intentions about where and how you need tenderness, unconditional love, and support. It really is. In fact, I don't know that there's a better new moon, would you guys say, than a Cancer new moon for all of that? Because Cancer rules all of that, right? Unconditional love, tenderness, nurturing. So make that the focus of your intention setting for this weekend. I think that would be really well aspected. Yeah. Let's see. Hold on, they told me to go back up. Ginger Seidel, I'd like a reading if possible. Someone or something has been trying to contact me. How do I tap into this, or what are they trying to tell me? Ginger. Let's see what the cards are saying. Ask for clearer signs. Let me see what the card says, but the guides are saying to ask for clearer signs. Look at the card. And then ask her for help. I am your divine mother. We belong to each other. Speak to me of your concerns. I will receive all you offer me and show you the way. Isn't that beautiful? Ask for clearer signs. They're talking about dreams. Hold on. I don't know what this means. If you look at your dreams, are you writing your dreams down, Ginger? If you start to look at your dreams, there's like little clues in your dreams. I don't feel anything negative around this. I just want to tell you that. Like, I don't feel, not that you said it was, but I don't feel anything negative around it. I feel like it's almost like whatever this is like a, someone on the other side or an energy on the other side is seeking, like wanting to show you something, or get your help with something, or it's like you helping them, but there's someone else involved. Is that right? Okay, so I'm getting yes, yes, yes on all of this. Ask for clearer information and look at your dreams. And not just tonight, but like if it's possible to start keeping track of them, because there's like, it's nothing big. It's like little small clues in your dreams that you would, kind of patch together to make sense. Your dreams are vivid. There's clues in them for you. Oh, good night, Hillary. I hope you have a good night, sweetheart. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's see. Hi, Morgan. It's great to see you live. He says, it's not often I get to be here live. He would love a reading. Let's do it, baby. It's wonderful to see you tonight. As the cards start flying. This is for Morgan. Yeah, it's nice. Those of you in the Southern Hem, it's tricky, with the timing. So I'm always thankful when you're here. Are you tired? Why are you tired? What a cool card, Morgan. I was just reading about the Chintamani. Have you read about the Chintamani? I bet you will now. I am the wish-fulfilling gem. This is from Tibetan, lore. That there's this thing called the Chintamani. It's a wish-fulfilling stone by which you shall experience your truest bliss. Let go and trust in the abundant nature of my generosity and grace. Your desires shall be met. It's like the ultimate genie in a bottle. New Moon in Cancer. What's your Chintamani? What are you wishing for? If there is such a thing as a Chintamani, as a wish-fulfilling stone, what would you ask for? Yeah, the universe is saying for you to... It's interesting. I'll show you what I'm seeing. The universe is showing me these like concentric circles. They show me like... One of the reasons I run my pendulum, if you guys are new and don't know, is I use it as an accuracy check, because the spirit guides show me images and words, but then I have to piece it together. It's not like I have like a sentence for you. So I use the pendulum just to make sure I'm interpreting things correctly, because sometimes I can see what they're showing me, but I don't know the whole backstory. So they're showing me concentric circles, Morgan, coming like smaller, 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 smaller. And they're saying that when it comes to you right now, you're at these like outer circles and you need to refine. And it feels like this is around like your intentions. And you've come closer. Does this make sense? I don't know what they're showing me, but it's like you've come closer, but you need to narrow in and zero in. And that's hard. I mean, we were talking about that earlier tonight in this class, right? Is like when you're going through challenging times, the last thing usually you think about is what you want, what you desire. But the universe is constantly manifesting through us, right? So we have to continue to refine, even under weird circumstances, right? Maddie Salamone, she said, I would love a reading to help me through Saturn return. It ain't easy. Let's see, Maddie, what's coming up for you. Maddie, for her Saturn return. Guides are saying yours is going to be on the longer side. Some people's are boop, some people's are boop, but I feel like yours is on the longer side. Here's the card. Take refuge in my grace. It flows constantly from my heart to yours. It shall clear your way. All things are more manageable when you lean into me. Let your way become easier. Do you know why this is funny to me, Maddie? Not funny, but interesting. Because when I first read your comment and said your name, the guides showed me like a link thing and then said, don't make this so hard. And then the message on the card is, let your way become easier. Soften, relax, surrender, soften, relax, surrender. Like there's this energy around just easing in, you know what I mean, to this, because, and maybe it will help to know that mine was a long Saturn return. It started at about 26 and lasted till 30. So, and I was on the inner bands and the outer bands of it for so long. I could feel it coming. I was just like, I know. And then when I met Dave, Dave was the literal start of my Saturn return when I met him. And instantly I was like, here we go. Because when I met Dave, it's like all kinds of things shifted, and I mean, it was beautiful and also really difficult. So I feel like you also know what that pinpoint start was, and now it's about kind of riding the waves of it and also seeing the gifts of it. Something, when you're done with this Saturn return, you're going to have something really precious, they're saying. Whether it's an experience or relationship or something, the outcome of this is going to be so good for you and will actually shape and impact your life. It seems like what they're showing me all the way to your next Saturn return, which, you know, you're going to be 58, 59, 60 at that time. So there's some good stuff coming through this process, but, you know, lean back. Lean back. That's another one of my teachers. That's her mantra, lean back. You know, because I think I taught you this. Like when you lean forward, you constrict energy, but when you lean back, you actually open the chakras. It's like a really good exercise. And she notices in me, like when we're on calls, that I'm always leaning forward, like hunched over, and she's always like, lean the fuck back. Open those chakras, right? Okay, let me go back in here. Let's see. Nicole B. I would love my first card reading. And then I'm going to go in for Sierra Foley after Nicole B. You guys are next to each other, and the guides are saying there's a connection. I don't know. Not between you personally, but energetically. So let me see what's going on with Nicole B first. So Nicole. It's a beautiful card. There is a way. I know what needs to take place for your fulfillment. You may not always recognize why things need to happen as they do. Be assured that my activity in your life is purposeful and kind. Assumptions. Why? I don't know what they're talking about. So Nicole, they're talking about assumptions that you're making that may not be accurate about people. Not a lot of people, certain people. Choose to believe more of the best. In some cases you do, but there's a few cases where there is something else to look at. This is what the guys are saying. Something else to look at that may surprise you, like in a good way. That's interesting. What could that be? And Sierra Foley says, I feel like I'm drowning. I've been there. Let's see what the cards have to say. Sierra. Be gentle. I am powerful enough to be gentle. You have my wisdom within your heart. When you are gentle with yourself, you allow me to love you. Be kind, you deserve compassion. Let me feel into this for a second. It's interesting. The guides are talking about like breaking down what you're feeling and what you're sensing. Like right now it's all in a kind of a soup, and when we are overwhelmed, we can't find clarity. And so the easiest way through overwhelm or out of overwhelm is to create structure and some organization around the energies, around the emotions. So hearing that, if this were me, if I were you, what I would do, one suggestion would be to try to write it all down, to articulate. I am feeling, I am sensing, and just give yourself an opportunity to articulate all of the different emotions and all of the different energies, and then take them one by one. And again, if it were me, what I would do is I would make 2 columns. So I would make one column that says mine, and I would make a second column that says not mine. And for each energy, for each emotion, I would put a check in one of those columns. This is mine, this is not mine, this is mine, this is not mine, this is mine, this is not mine. And then just bring your attention to the mine column. Because that process alone will shave off, for most people, anywhere from like 30 to 60% of what's there. And then you can go, well, okay, so now at least I know what I have to work with. You know what I mean? I don't think the anger is mine. I don't think the grief is mine. I don't think the rage is mine. But the lack of confidence does belong to me. The fear belongs to me, or whatever it is. But then owning what's in your category versus owning the entire cauldron feels like a good first step to making sense. And then it's about asking yourself, for each one of those items, where can you bring compassion there? Where can you be compassionate for yourself? You're so welcome, Nicole. Where can you be compassionate for yourself around your sadness? Where can you be compassionate to yourself around your regret or whatever it is, right? Okay, Sherry Herring said, I would love a reading, please. I had a dramatic shift last night. It was magical, but I'm lost as to where to go next. Some guidance would be appreciated. Well, let's go in there and see what the guides have to say about that for Sherry. I like the little emojis. They're cute. Sherry, Sherry, Sherry. One of my teachers uses that as his emoji. And he looks like that. So it's a very good emoji for him. I haven't seen him in a while, so it was nice to think of him. Self-liberation, baby. I like this card too. Nothing you could do would cause me to turn away from you. How's that for unconditional love? Liberate yourself from judgment. When you choose to believe you are worthy, you empower my grace in your life. Isn't that beautiful, Sharon? So, they're talking about transformation and you stepping into your power. This might be scary for you at a certain point, whatever they're showing me. It's like, when you step into your power, that's always exciting, but there's always this element of like, ooh, what's going to be expected of me? Or am I going to have to change? Or am I going to have to, what are the new rules? So what I'm getting is, first, trust the process. You'll be guided. You'll have what you need. But you will have to move in confidence is what I'm getting. Move in confidence. Because there are certain of your soul gifts, they're saying, that have been cultivated more over the last, 12, 18, 24 months. And that was not for nothing. So, whenever they start building up your stockpile of gifts, it's not for nothing. It's because they want you to use them. So what's that going to look like for you? It's pretty exciting. Could be really cool. Let's see. Amanda Topless. She says, I would love a reading if you feel called. I sometimes feel like I'm stuck on autopilot. Yeah. I think a lot of us feel like that. I get there. Do you ever get there? The rest of you? Yeah? Go through the motions. Let's see. Amanda. You know what the word is they're giving me? they're saying slingshot. I don't think you're going to be feeling like that for much longer. Change is coming. What a great card. It's the Trust Your Path card. It says, I set you upon your life path again and again until you realize the passion within your heart is my passion for you. Trust in your path. Trust in what you love. Isn't that beautiful, Amanda? I set you upon your life path again and again until you realize the passion within your heart is my passion for you. Trust in your path. Trust in what you love. Yeah. Maybe enjoy this place, because I think soon you're going to have a little growth spurt. And maybe this autopilot phase that you're in gives you a little bit of respite. I think it's good, whatever's coming, but you've got some change ahead. Aw, thank you, Bonnie. And I had somebody write in and she was really upset. I felt so bad because she didn't read the card. So the Turkish coffee cups for your new moon set got stuck at the port because of COVID. They're here, but we just can't get them. So Team SG purchased second cups for everybody. And we are shipping now 2 sets to you because you're getting a second cup. And we're paying for that. So it's like, it's a lot of money for us. But we didn't want you to not have a cup. We felt bad that they're stuck at the port. So we sent a card with a replacement cup saying, hey, your other cup is coming, but we're sending you this, enjoy, so you can do the ritual. But then your nice cup is still coming. But she didn't read the card. So she thought I was just sending her the white cup and she wasn't going to get her other one. And she was so mad. I felt so bad. It's like, no. We made a mistake. I mean, we didn't make a mistake. It's not our fault. But we can't get you your things, so we're doing something extra for you. Anyway, hopefully everybody sees the card and doesn't get upset. Let's see. Okay. Leanna Engman says, I would love to be read starting down a new path. I can feel it. Long time coming is what I'm feeling. Did you postpone this or procrastinate? It's good. I mean, this is really, really good. There's a financial benefit here. They're showing me open doors. Feels very good. The energy feels nice and flowing. Let's see what the card says. Leanna. Yeah, it's good. Good. Take refuge in my grace. It flows constantly from my heart to yours. It shall clear your way. All things are more manageable when you lean into me. Let your way become easier. This is one of my favorite cards from earlier, right? Let your way become easier. If you get anxious or if you feel anxiety, do you know my polar exercise? I've taught you about polarity and hermetic principles and stuff. I did a recap in the manifestation class, so if you haven't watched that yet, go back and watch that. If you start feeling anxious, go to the opposite emotion, because this is all really good news, but it is change. And what I'm getting from the spirit guides is you could still have some anxiety around it. You may experience a setback or two, but don't be discouraged by that. It feels like something out of your control, but in the long run, it's not going to matter. But I think they're just telling me to tell you that so that you're aware and you don't let that create stress for you, because this is really good. So try to enjoy the process. And they keep saying there's a financial component or a financial benefit. Do you know what they're talking about? It feels good. Okay, good. This is the Kuan Yin transmission deck by Alana Fairchild. It's super, super pretty. I really like it. Good night, Megan. It's great to see you tonight. Thank you for being here. Oh, I know, COVID delays suck. I mean, who wants that, right? It's been the bane of my existence this whole year. I'm so happy when it's over. All right, Lee Jackson. I would love a reading, guidance about my new business partnership. Let's check it out. Lee. Well, this one popped up. I was going to tell you it feels good. The energy of it feels good, and then this is the card. Be at peace. I feel the subtle tensions that you hold within. What do you need so you can relax? Imagine it has now been granted, and there is no need to worry. Trust in me. Really take that in. I think part of the reason I love this deck is you and I know these things to be true of the spirit world, and yet we still need a reminder, like, oh yeah, if I trust, I guess I really don't need to worry. There is a little, I'm not going to call it anxiety, but a little bit of like hesitation or something. Don't make assumptions, is what they're saying. This feels like a good partnership, but there is something within you. You have a question or something that you need. It's unreconciled, is what they're saying. Time will show you more, they're saying. But I wouldn't make any changes. Because it feels good. It just feels like there's just something where you're like not sure about something, or you're wondering, well, how would this go? Or you need more information. It's something like that. And time will show you. But for now, where you are is good. I feel like there's something you're learning from exactly the phase where you are right now, Lee, that feels important to you. Jacqueline says she's hungry. Go eat, Jacqueline. Let's see. Okay. I see you. Okay, so if you see me, I pass mine to Mavi. I can really use some Kuan Yin love. I'm going through a rough patch with my husband. I see you. I don't know anybody who's married who hasn't had a rough patch. So I think we can all have compassion for you. I think rough patches can make you stronger. If you intend that. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody has to intend that. So let me see what's coming up in the cards. Mavi. Ooh. They're talking about waiting, and the timing is not right. Hold on. And then here's the prosperity card. As you release your concerns to me, I support your material well-being so that you may devote your energies to your spiritual journey. Ask for my help, and my blessings will transform your world. That's a good card, Mavi. You know what I mean? Nobody's ever gotten that card and been sad about it. They still are saying there's something, I don't know if it relates to both of you or just one of you, where the timing is kind of off and you need to wait for something. So I don't know. They keep talking about that. Are you guys talking about starting something or doing something together? I actually feel like that could, in some ways, help you. There seems to be energy around that. Some kind of project, or maybe a little business venture you guys could do together. It may not be the right time to do it now, but I think Spirit is planting the seed for that, which could bring prosperity, which they're saying could bring greater peace and joy in the relationship. The pendulum is going nuts, saying yes. It's like shoo, shoo, shoo. So I hope that's helpful for you. And come on now, Mavi, we got a new moon in Cancer, right? You're expanding your dump truck business. Well, there it is. But there's a timing issue. Mind the timing issue. Now, let me just say one more thing to Mavi, because this is really important and the spirit guides are on me. Are you and your husband in a good enough place to sit down and set intentions together on Friday night? Even if you don't want to, like when Dave and I have had our moments, I've still been able to say, hey, I know we're like not excited about each other right now, but could we sit down and set intentions? You know what I mean? Like if you can like kind of put parentheses around your challenges, and because I really feel like you guys need to maximize the energy of this new moon in Cancer. And the guides are saying, sorry, this is still from Abby, 50% intentions for the business, 50% intentions for you. Okay. That's what I got for you. Lisa Cohen, may I have a birthday reading? I will be 56 in the early hours of Saturday the 10th. Happy birthday to you, beautiful. You made 56 look good, girl. Happy birthday. So, Lisa, let's see what the cards are saying for you tonight. Lisa. A birthday reading for Lisa. It's an 11 year for you, 56. That's a master number. So we develop new psychic gifts in our mastery years, right? So all of the 11s are very important. Lisa. Okay. What a cool card. Beautiful human. Sometimes your fears and doubts cause you to distrust your own heart, yet your heart is my own. Rest in the peace of your true heart now. There you will find my wisdom and love. Spirit guides are saying you're going to learn something about yourself this year through an experience that you will have. Try not to say no to new experiences this year. Do you ever say no to new experiences? I used to. Now I try to embrace them, because what I've learned is there's something in those new experiences that usually is, especially when stuff comes out of the blue, it's probably leading you somewhere. But you're going to learn something about yourself through a new experience this year, or a new connection with a person this year. It's really going to help you, this new self-awareness, in every aspect of your life, they're saying. It's like a layer down in your onion. So this is a big year for you. Celebrate it in a big way. Aw, Lisa. It feels really good. Like it's one of those years for you, I feel like, have you had these years before, where you look back the next year and you're like, how did I go through my life not knowing that? It's like, well, because the universe is interesting. Oh, I love it. Isn't that fun? Okay, hold on. Vanessa Michelle's comment says, birthday 14, I am Cohen, Vanessa's son, and I would like a card, please. How exciting. Hi, Cohen. And happy birthday to you. This is Vanessa's son. How exciting. I'm going to pull a card for Cohen. So let's see what the cards have to say for you. Sweet Cohen. My son is 14, by the way. It's my favorite age so far. Just love 14. He's such a great companion to me. For Cohen. It's the Be Gentle card. I am powerful enough to be gentle. We learn that at 14, don't we? You have my wisdom within your heart. When you are gentle with yourself, you allow me to love you. Be kind. You deserve compassion. You know what the guides are saying for you, Cohen? Do more of what you love. This year, it's going to be important for you too. And by doing more of what you love, you're going to discover something that could actually lead you to your career one day. What you're drawn to in your life right now is going to be part of your future. What do you love to do? The pendulum is like, yeah, follow your gifts, because if you do that, it's going to lead you to great success. Do more of what you love this year. Yeah. Very sweet. All right, Becca Olivera. Hi, Becca. She says, I'm struggling with family stuff and I would love a reading. All right, Becca. Oh, you're still here, Hillary. Nice to see you. Oh, it was Alexis that was signing off. Sorry. I love Alexis. I told Alexis to sign off. She doesn't need to stay for readings. You and I got this. All right. So Becca, let's see what's coming up for you, girl. Becca. Free spirit. it focus. There we go. I relish your free-spirited nature. You are my beloved wild child. When you accept my love, every regret shall be cleansed from your heart. I love this card. And your soul will be set free. Isn't that cool? Free spirit. That's what you're looking for right now, huh? You need, it's the spirit guides are saying, it's like you need freedom, you need space, you need, yeah. Ooh. So, and it's amazing how many of you, they're just bringing me back to Friday. This new moon's really important for you because the family struggles that you're having right now, you're not the only one. And it's really important because you're one of the guides are saying you're one of the healers in the family, right? Your gifts are strong, more so than other people in your family. And you know, that's a blessing and a challenge, right, Becca? When you're one of the more, I don't like to use the word gifted, but you know what I mean, one of the more plugged in in your family. That's a blessing, but it's also a challenge because your awareness is usually more expanded. The responsibility for a lot of the energy work falls on your shoulders. A Cancer new moon is the best new moon to set intentions for a shift in family dynamics. And if you set, hold on, you need to do this because what's happening in your family, the guides are saying it's like affecting some people's health, or health is involved somehow. So when you set an intention to shift this dynamic, I actually think it's going to significantly help, not just you, but at least one other person in your family. Maybe that's why it feels intense to you, right? Maybe you're aware of that on some level. Okay. I'm going to do one more individual, and then I'm going to do a collective. And then I think we'll have like a 10-minute balance of readings, and I'll add that on tomorrow. All right. So let me go back to Hillary, because I was going to read for Hillary, and then I thought she said she was signing off. Donde estás? So Hillary, there you are. Okay. Hillary. Let me see what's coming up for you tonight from Kuan Yin. This was the card that I pulled from Morgan earlier. Such a cool card. It doesn't come up that often. It's kind of cool that it's come up twice tonight. The Chintamani card, you know, the wish fulfillment. I am the wish-fulfilling gem by which you shall experience your true bliss. Let go and trust in the abundant nature of my generosity and grace. Your desires shall be met. It's interesting. What they're saying is there's a shift around you, and here's what they're saying. I don't know if it makes sense to you. You're seeing something now or understanding why something wasn't working. Does that make sense to you? But that understanding, while it's very subtle, has a big impact. You're going to change something about what you're doing or how you're doing it or something like that, and it's going to have like a profoundly good impact on the outcome. But you had to get to this place first. And this impacts the next like 6 to 12 months. It feels good. It feels like you're like stumbling upon something. It's good. Trust it though. Is there part of you that's not? Trust it. It's like if you weren't trusting it, you could almost not acknowledge it or something like that. Trust it and follow it. Don't let that insight slip away because it's very important. It doesn't seem important. They keep saying that. It's very subtle, but it has an impact on the rest of it, right? Yeah. Good for you. We have these gifts for a reason. All right, how about a collective card, everybody? And then tomorrow, don't forget, we have readings again from 2 to 3:10 tomorrow. because we started 10 minutes late tonight. So from 2 to 3:10 tomorrow in your Facebook group, I will be live doing readings. Actually, no, I'm here, still on YouTube. So you get 2 hours this week because I'm not going to be with you the following 2 weeks. Then I'm with you twice at the end of July. Yeah. All right. So this is the collective card for everyone in Soul Shift, Soul Shift, Soul Shift. A card to guide us in our first week of July. A card for the collective, everyone who's here now, everyone who will watch later. A card to guide all of us together tonight. A message for the collective from Kuan Yin. Wise action. There is something you can do. Consult your heart to understand how to act with wisdom. Through prayer, thoughtful speech, forgiveness, or taking a step, do what you can and surrender all else. I'm so glad you guys had fun tonight. I really am. I had so much fun with you too. I really, really did. I'm glad. I like this card for the collective because I feel like it kind of sums up everything tonight, right? Start where you are, take a step, do what you can, and let the rest go. I was reflecting on this last night a little bit. I had one of those nights where I just woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get back to sleep. And I was laying there reflecting on a lot of the things that we've talked about lately. And I was reflecting on the coaching recordings that I had made for you. Because in the coaching recordings, I talk about how when you live in the past, you often encounter regret. And when you live in the future, you often encounter anxiety. Because the past can't be changed and the future can't be known. So the only place to find peace is in this present moment. But when we stay in this present moment, we feel like we're not doing enough. You know what I mean? Like we're not, humans feel, I don't think we've always felt this way, but certainly in our modern society, we feel like if we're just in this present moment and just being, it's like we're not being active enough, we're not doing enough, we're not. And it's like, I think we have to really reevaluate how we manage our thoughts and manage our energy. And really train ourselves. And I was having to do this last night because I was falling into like thinking about the past or thinking about the future, and it's like I can't, the future isn't set and the past is complete. There's no value in being in either of those places. And so I think this is an interesting card for, all of us to consider. Is just be here now, do what you can, and then let everything else go. There's peace to be found in that kind of a decision, You can't live in the future. The future doesn't exist. I mean, you can dream into it, but a lot of times we nightmare into it. I mean, right? When we're thinking about the future, a lot of times it's because we're worried about something. So I always say dream into it, but don't nightmare into it. You know what I mean? Don't manufacture a crisis. Don't rehearse a tragedy, right? It's like, let life come on life's terms, but we don't need to, it's almost like we're trying to produce the play, and you and I both know that is not the case. Just being here now is good medicine. Good night, Jenny. I hope that's helping you, darling. I really do. All right, with so much love, thank you for being here tonight for this extended remix. Tomorrow will be a regular schedule, so from 2 to 3 we'll have our readings. From 4 to 6 we have Crystal Masters. I'm really looking forward to class. I hope you are too. And in the meantime, have a beautiful rest of your evening wherever you are. It's probably quite late where you are, so sweet dreams. I'll see you tomorrow.